As you said, this is bigger than you. This is bigger than New York. So I do now want to take a step back and get that 30,000 foot view and talk about the implications this could have nationally. Because as many as 6 GOP seats could flip, this has implications for the balance of power when it comes to 2024. So does the NRCC have a plan to make up these seats elsewhere in other districts in other states?
Well, look, I can't speak to what's going on in other states. We're going to have to look for opportunities where there are competitive seats to challenge Democrats who are not doing the right thing in Washington with strong Republican candidates who are reflective of those districts. And I think we have done a good job of that these last 2 cycles, picking up seats where we took the majority. I think that you're right. New York now plays a pivotal role in who will control the House of Representatives. And that, I think, is part of the foundation of the governor's plan, is that they are trying to tilt the scale to get more Democratic seats out of New York to make Hakeem Jeffries the speaker. There's no doubt about that, that's what they're trying to accomplish here, because they want one-party rule in Washington. They want to continue the madness that we saw when Nancy Pelosi was in charge and the Democrats controlled everything. The massive spending that led us to the high inflation that the Democrats put us in. Just the defund the police movement, this open borders migrant crisis that is affecting every city in America, particularly New York City. They want to continue all that stuff. They don't want to have checks and balances. They don't want anyone calling them out and exposing them. And that's why these seats in New York are so incredibly important. And for those who live in New York City, I'm the only person who gives our city bipartisan representation in Washington. So they should be concerned about not having a balance in our representation, but not even having one Republican that would represent the alternative viewpoint to what AOC is suggesting. So I think that these seats in New York are pivotal for New York, but also for the entire nation, because as you know, when we came into power this year, we controlled the House by just 4 seats, and those 4 seats came from New York.
I do want to talk about those seats because based on what you're saying, you think, hey, based on my track record, my seat's pretty safe as of now. But what seat do you think is the most in danger of being lost? And as a Republican, as a New York Republican, how are you going to help them?
Well, look, there's no doubt we're going to have a challenge, and I'm going to have to, work as much as possible to speak to as many voters in the new district that will receive. And again, this process is just starting. New maps will come out February 28th. And then from there, we'll see. We may end up back in court if they try to egregiously gerrymander these districts like they did last year. It's hard to say which particular districts at this point would be the most vulnerable without seeing the new lines. But obviously, all the freshmen that we elected this year, they all had competitive districts. I mean, they flipped seats, right? So look at the seats that were flipped. I mean, people like, Mike Lawler, Anthony D'Esposito, also Brandon Williams. These are seats that were either open or they flipped. And Mark Molinaro, all of them did a great job. And they worked very hard to win in districts that were competitive, but also districts that voted for Joe Biden as well. So these were already Democrat-leaning seats. So the fact that Democrats want to make them even more heavily Democratic, because they couldn't even win in a district that Joe Biden won in, where Joe Biden has a 32% approval rating. I mean, that just shows you how bad the Democrats are in New York and how much faith people have lost in them, because they've destroyed New York. That's what they're doing. They are destroying New York, and that is why we took so many seats last year, where you didn't see Republicans do as well in other parts of the country.